Welcome to our webinar. We are so excited that you're here today. We have a phenomenal presentation by the lovely Kait Fontenot. So if you follow us on social media, I totally said her name wrong yesterday, which is embarrassing for someone whose name is Jihei. It is very rude of me to get other people's names wrong. So Kait Fontenot is here today. We're super excited for this presentation. You are going to love it. She's going to talk to us about brand and having a brand strategy that works and that's simple. So as you're coming in, we have lots of people. I want to hear, let's start with some like uplifting goodness today. I want to hear what your favorite feature of yourself is. So I was just on a test call with Kaitlin, and she has phenomenal eyebrows. I would love for you to focus on her presentation because it's really good and she's got a lot of great information, but definitely check out her brows because they are magical. So tell us where you're from and what your favorite feature is. It's not like prideful. I think it's good for us to like recognize there's some great things about us. I can start. One of my favorite features about myself maybe are that I have nice enough nails, and I like to do my nails at home. I spend like $2 on nail polish at the drugstore, and I just like to do my nails. And so I think that's a decently good feature that I have. Let's hear the rest of you. Tyrenda, tell us what you like. You're from the land of potatoes, but tell us what is awesome about you. I think there's a lot of awesome things about you. Ooh, we got Germany in the house. Hello. Oh man, Ty's got a good tush. I love it. See, people, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, good bone structure in Vancouver Island. Yes, friends, this is a safe place. Let's all just come in here and feel good about ourselves. And then Kaitlin's going to help us to feel good about our brands, and it's going to be amazing. This is a great morning. Kaitlin's going to start talking in a second here, but as she's going through her presentation, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will be writing them down. And then at the end, when we have our live Q&A, she may get to your question. Okay, so we also have, great hair. That's fantastic. And she loves her height. And we have the Netherlands, Austria. Guys, we are crazy international this morning. I love it. Hourglass magic. Oh, and you have great balance. Welcome. Friends, this is a fun group. Welcome, Kaitlin, and let's keep this magic going here. Or not right now? How we doing?
Do what? Can you hear me?
Man.
Okay. Jihei, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. First off, I love that you love my eyebrows. That makes me so happy. My hands are one of my favorite features. I love my hands. They do a lot of heavy lifting with my work. So I love that, I have to say. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. This is so exciting for me. I know that you all have such a busy schedule. We all do. And so the fact that you took 30 minutes out of your day just means the world to me. Jihei, the Show It team, like I've loved you all for what feels like ages. So I cannot thank you enough for having me. I also want to just take a minute to honor all of you and just say that whether you're starting your business or you're thinking of starting a business, you're not quite sure yet, or you had a business for ages and you're going into that next phase, you're trying to figure out how to even make it work with this next phase of life. I just want to honor you and say that no matter how far you've come, you need to be so proud of how far you've come. Like this is such a difficult thing. It's very rewarding, but owning a business is like a mental game. So I just want to honor you. You should be so proud of yourself. And I'm just so happy to be here with all of you to talk about how we've created a simplistic brand strategy and how you can do the same thing and just make your life not so complicated. Okay, so I'm excited to dive in. So to give you a little bit of background about me, I am Kait Fontenot. We live in the Dallas, Texas, or Dallas-Fort Worth area. I moved here from the New Orleans area literally right when the pandemic started, which I don't necessarily advise, but we got here at the perfect time before the houses decided to go wild, which was great. I'm a self-taught designer and developer, completely self-taught. I'm an e-commerce expert. I'm the founder of Kait Studio. I'm a mama to two. which one is 1 and one is 8, which is insane to me. I'm an airline wife, which does not mean I get to travel a lot, if ever. And I don't have a passport, which G. Hayward and I were talking about yesterday. And I found it really odd that I don't have a passport as an airline wife. And I'm an Enneagram 3, which means I absolutely stayed up way too late last night finishing this presentation. So my hopes for you today are, first off, that you can have the confidence to just do the dang thing. Whether you're starting your business or you're going into that next phase, I just want to help you feel a little less overwhelmed with everything you're doing. I want you to feel like it doesn't have to be that complicated. We find ourselves showing up on social media, watching other people tell us how to do it, and that is so overwhelming. I want you to walk away from here and be like, it's actually not that complicated. I can just do it. I want you to have the confidence to charge your worth, whether you're a web designer, brand designer, both, you're a photographer. I want you to feel confident in your expertise. And I want you to have the confidence to show up as the expert that you and I both know that you already are. Like, you know your stuff, you know the stuff you sell, and I want you to feel confident that you can get out there and start selling it without one more thing. So these pictures are cringy to me and it's hysterical. I have to share them. I did an Instagram poll last night saying, should I share this? And it was a resounding yes. There you go. And I will kind of go a little more in depth in just a second, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about my background because I don't think that you can truly take in the idea of a simplistic brand without hearing how I built a simplistic brand. And so I wanted to share a little bit about my journey. So my path to here was incredibly unpaved. You could say it was like gravel. My advice to you is to never be afraid to ask for what you want, no matter how big it is. It doesn't matter. So my whole childhood, I literally daydreamed of being a marine biologist, like you would not believe. And it's so funny to me because I hate sand being all over my body. And the feeling that your hair gets after being in the ocean for a couple of hours, hate it. I hate it. I love being clean. But you take a girl to Mexico once as a 14-year-old, she swims with sharks and dolphins, and she thinks she can do anything. Needless to say, I didn't end up doing that, but I had a internship lined up at SeaWorld for the first summer after the first year of college. And I was super pumped. And I get to college, and the first day of orientation of all things, I meet my now husband. So needless to say, I did not go for the SeaWorld career, gratefully. I spent some time in college not knowing what I wanted to do, just like I'm sure all of you are nodding your head saying, yes, same. Spent way too much of my, my student loan, trying to figure it out. I ended up going into marketing. I loved sales. I had had a job since I was 15. When I get into a room with people, it's so energizing to me. I love sales. I love talking about things that other people are passionate about with me. So I went for it. And at that time, which would have been around like 2010, 2011, the idea of having a blog or being an influencer was not a big deal. It was a new thing. Now, if you say, I'm an influencer, everyone says, okay, you too, because there's so many of them. But back then, the biggest ones, Rach Parcell, Julia of Gal Meets Glam, that was the new things. They were very, very new. And in order to get an internship, I needed a blog. So I decided, okay, I don't have any money to share clothes. I don't have any idea about fashion, but I love those things. And I like daydreaming about those things. So I'll start a blog. So I start a very simplistic WordPress blog, and it ended up getting me an internship with an online publication. And we did things with like Vogue and Elle. I was able to be their PR manager. I did tons of like interviews with celebrities. It was so much fun. And their name was Chic Galleria. They had a WordPress blog as well. So anytime I wanted to change anything, I would Google it or YouTube it. And at that time, I didn't know that what I was doing was like learning development, but I was teaching myself for years and years and years. I was learning development, just having fun with it. And I had no idea that I was learning that. So I graduate college, I get married to my husband now, and I can't find a job to save my life in advertising. No one wanted to hire me. Even though I had had a job since I was 15, I had tons of experience. I had the internships. I did all the right things. They only wanted to give me an unpaid internship. And I had a family to feed. I like to eat. I needed to eat. So I decided to go into retail just for the time being. I thought I'll get a retail job. It'll be okay. I'll learn some stuff and then I'll reapply for all these positions that I wanted in New Orleans. I ended up going into retail as an assistant manager, and I worked my way up to store manager and assistant buying and their social media. I did a lot of everything. And I think most people would say, I'm not being paid for this, or, this isn't what I signed up for. But I'm really grateful for that because I loved my job, but I learned so much in that time span. And so I got pregnant with my first son in 2014. And I really wanted to keep my full-time job. I love retail, y'all. There's something about being around customers, about the energy in the room. I mean, no, we don't like the rough customers, but the ones that come in and they need you to make them feel better about themselves. There's nothing like that feeling of knowing you've helped someone feel confident. I loved retail. And so I asked my boss, is there a way, maybe I can work less weekends? I have a baby. And that was a no. And I said, okay, that's fine. So is there a way I can work less holidays? And that was a no. And I said, okay, that's fine. Is there a way that I can get a raise? And that was a no. So I said, okay, is there a way that I can get benefits? And that was a no. And that's why I say never be afraid to ask for what you want, because those no's were the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life, truly. And I didn't see it then, but I see it now. And as much as I loved that career and my boss, she was wonderful and I loved her so much, those no's were the best thing that could have ever happened. So I left that job and I had a newborn on my lap and I fell into the bouts of postpartum depression. And I'm grateful for that. Weirdly enough, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Once again, I learned a lot about myself. And I decided to start an online boutique because I needed, if there are any parents out there, you understand, you need that part of you. Like, yes, you're a parent. Yes, that you love that, but you need you. And I wanted to feel that part of Kait again. We did wonderful. We were open for a year. In that year, we did pop-up shops and we had a growing online presence and it was phenomenal. But my heart wasn't in it. That whole first year, my heart just wasn't there, no matter what. And randomly, I started getting emails from other business owners saying things like, who did your website? Or who's managing your social media? And I'm like, y'all are paying people for this? Because I didn't know that was a career. And I'm like, I did those things. What are you talking about? And I ended up getting so many of those inquiries within like a week or two after networking with a ton of like boutique owners just trying to ask for, let's be friends. Let's, brainstorm with each other. This is hard. Like, let's talk. I ended up getting so many of those emails within a couple of weeks that I told my husband, I'm done. I think this is where I want to be, because my goal in life had always been, no matter what, to just make other women feel good about themselves. In any instance, I want people to wake up feeling like the things you're so overwhelmed with, they don't have to be so overwhelming. They can be easy. And so I ran with it. I did not have a beautiful website. In fact, I told my sister-in-law yesterday that she's about to launch a business. And I said, listen, your website is beautiful. If I could find my old website, you would understand. I'm so glad I didn't find my old website last night when I was searching, because I want to protect your eyes. It was just real bad. But these photos on the left are things I did find in Google search, which is funny. So the top left, I was a newlywed at 23. And these are some like blog photos. I thought I was very stylish. And actually the jacket, it's so funny. I didn't have any money to my name. And so I took an old denim jacket I bought and like cut the sleeves off. I thought it was super cool. And then the bottom photo is about 6 months into doing what I do now. I had a goal of $1,500 a month to help pay the mortgage. And I hit it on the dot every month. And that to me was my sign. I'm religious. That was me to my sign from God that like, please keep going. You can do more. This is great. You're doing great. This is your sign. So I wanted to share those little gems with y'all. My advice to you, no matter where you're at, no matter what season of life you're going through with your business, to make sure you're learning anywhere you're currently at in life, because it may not be permanent, but it is teaching you something about yourself or your boundaries or your future. I am so grateful for my previous career because I learned so much about team growth and management and things that I would never do to my employees and the ways to treat them. And they tell me all the time, like, I'm so glad that you're so like understanding and so nice. And I say, it's because of the way I've been treated in past roles. And I'm sure anybody else can understand that. So I've learned so much about so much. And in general, I work with a lot of e-commerce businesses, and I learned a lot about sales in that position. So never be mad about where you're at, but definitely be learning. So in the beginning, why I feel that a simplistic branding strategy is so important is because even though we build brands for literally hundreds of businesses, and I love what I do, what differentiated us in the beginning was never a logo. For years, it was me, my trusty computer, a baby, and that's it. It was just like I'm figuring it out day by day. I found ways to show up for my audience that was just helpful. And we've stayed booked for 8 years without a logo, which is weird. Like if you go to our website, it's a text logo and it's worked. We never had the perfect graphics for our brand or the perfect website until like maybe 6 months ago. We decided that the ways where we're going in the future, we've got to differentiate our brand, tiers. So we've dug more into that. But for 8 years, y'all, we've never had the perfect graphics. We never showcased a portfolio. And as a web designer and developer, to just say, here's some people I've worked with, but not really show your work, like I know that's weird, but it really does, and it can work if you do it the right way. And so I want to show you what we did instead. I followed the golden rule, at least the golden rule in my mind. You have to know who you're talking to and what their problems are. You have to help them solve an issue. You have to really show up for your audience, because in 2022, y'all, there are over 7 billion people in this world, and we all want personal connection more than anything. So you can have the most beautiful website, just best copy in the world, but if someone doesn't feel like they're actually connected to a human, you're not going to get that sale. You're not going to get that client. I've had so many people get on the phone with us for, discovery call and say, listen, I've been signed up for your email newsletters for 3 years. And the main reason I wanted to work with you, yeah, you make beautiful websites, your team does great, but I wanted to work with you because I felt like I knew you and I could trust you. And I had never spoken to these people before. It was only because I continued to show up as myself and build a personal brand that didn't feel overwhelming to anyone and didn't feel overly professional. It just felt unique and personable. It's helped so much. So I always recommend knowing who you're talking to, like getting very in depth. And I don't necessarily mean niching by that, but really envision that person. And so you have to dig deep into who they are and what makes them tick in their daily life. And so I always try to follow 4 main points that we'll kind of dive into. So number 1 being, what are their pain points? What irritates them so bad day in and day out? And they think, if I could duplicate myself and that person could do this thing, what would that be? I'll give you an example for us. One thing we do a lot of Shopify, a lot of Showit, WordPress, but one of the things in the beginning of my business that I saw to be such a problem is we would get a client and they would say, I spent like $30,000 on this massive website and I can't even update it. I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to change anything. So it's dated because I can't change it. And that broke me a little bit, as a business owner myself, as a mom, as a wife. We all have so much going on. The idea of investing that much money and then feeling so out of control with what you've built just kind of makes me nauseous. I'm not going to lie. So I knew that there was such a need for not only custom Shopify sites, like truly custom developed that felt unique and literally gave their customers the experience they needed. That was great and all, but our clients wanted to feel in control. They wanted to feel like they could edit things easily, that their team was trained on everything. So we really, really dug into those pain points and we made it part of our service. So I encourage you to find, like, what is the thing that makes it hard for them to sleep at night? What is so annoying to your target market, and how can you help them solve that problem? And who are they? Identify them. Like, envision their face, envision like what clothes they wear, give them an actual name, make it one person so that when you're trying to sell or speak to this person, you know who to talk to. It's like you're speaking to a friend. Envision the way they look, how do they act, what kind of career do they have? What part of their life are they in? What stage of life? Do they have a family? Do they ever want a family? Are they graduating college? Are they maybe in their 50s, 60s thinking about that next step? What are they? Who are they? How do they speak? How do they act? What do they think about? When they walk into a room, are they confident? Do they keep their head high? Or Are they really shy and introverted and they need someone to help them take that next step? And also, the most important thing in all of this with personal branding is to be relatable. I really, throughout my 8 years, for 4 years or so, maybe five, it was just me and I had no one. And I would just show up and I would have a kid on my hip and I would have my hair in a ponytail and I would just share from my heart. What do you want to hear about today? How can I help you? I would share random tips and strategies and things we were working on with our clients, social media advice, my daily life, what was going on, and quotes and scripture that spoke to me. I was just myself. And it made others feel like they could come to me and trust me with whatever issues they have. It's really difficult, I'm sure a lot of you can relate sometimes, to give a part of your business over to someone else and trust them. Like, that's your baby, that's your world. And sometimes it feels almost embarrassing a little bit to share what's really going on in business with other business owners. But when I showed up and I was myself, other people felt like, "Ugh, I can be myself too. That's so refreshing. Can I please tell you where I'm at in business?" And we could just be raw, like real and raw with each other. And it didn't have to be embarrassing or awkward. And it was because I showed up as me. I didn't try to be perfect. I didn't try to like have this staged persona. I was just Kait. So you want to consider, let's say that you're like a fitness expert and you really only want to work with like moms in postpartum life to help them regain their confidence and maybe get back in shape. If you show up in a suit, they're going to be like, "Who is this person? I can't relate to this person." But if you show up in workout clothes and like a ball cap or like your hair in a ponytail or just however, then they feel like they can tell you what's really going on in their daily life, like what they're struggling with. I mean, weight's a very like that's a tricky conversation. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable sharing before and after photos with people. So if you show up as someone they can't relate to, that's scary. And you want to consider, if you were to go to brunch with these people that you're trying to speak to, what would you wear? How would you show up that makes them feel comfortable around you, not like an outsider or someone they feel weird talking to? So I really want you to encourage you to be relatable at all, by all means. Don't watch what other people are doing and see, "Oh, this person's so professional," or "This person looks so perfect every day." No, just be yourself because people want to work with you. Again, it can be so easy to watch what other people are doing too close, and then you find yourself following the trend of who that person is, because I've been there. And I want to remind you that their audience is not your audience and their style is not your style. And there is something so unique about you that others need, and you have to show up as yourself. I have gone through periods where I find myself watching other people and think, maybe that's what I should be doing. Oh my gosh. And I find myself almost mimicking as a person a little too closely, and our inquiries fall off. And when I pick back up and I start just being myself, they skyrocket again. There is something so unique about who you are as a personal brand and a person that you have to show up as yourself. Sometimes we need to focus more on building the relationships, and I see that as personal branding, than branding as a whole with the logo and the color palettes and all of that. Because my most valuable connections have come from networking wholeheartedly. And I want to encourage you, don't ever burn your bridges, no matter what, and always continue adding new roads, add in a side road, a throughway, whatever you got to do. Talk to people, have just a normal conversation and make connections with them so they get to know you as a person, not you as a business. Because every interaction is a transaction of some sort. And they may not all be monetary now, but they will be monetary at some point in your life. It might not be that person, but it will be the three they recommend you to. The problems that I've solved as a personal brand for our community have never been about monetary gain. They've always been to share that I know what I say that I know, and I want to help others, because through doing that, it brands me as the expert, and I'm showing them, hey, I do know what I'm talking about, not just me telling you that I know what I'm talking about. So how do we build that simplistic brand that stands out? Here are my top 5 steps that are very simplistic. I want this to feel so easy for y'all. So step 1, I really want you to consider who you want to work with. Not a specific niche, but a specific type of person. You want to do your research. What do they need that's missing in the market? I am 8 years in, and in the last 6 months, we have been about what's next. We're growing into like courses for those who want to learn Shopify development. We are opening up a template shop for like Show It templates and Shopify themes and all of that, so we can continue helping our community in ways that work for them. I hired a whole marketing team, Hannah Nieves, she's wonderful. And that's our whole thing, is we've really been focusing more about who is that person that I really want to work with. And it's taken me 8 years to really feel like, I got it. Like I can see that person so clearly in my mind. So for those of you starting off, that person right now on day one is not going to be that person a year from now. If you're lucky, it will be. But more times than none, it's not going to be the same person. So that's why I believe in just starting, because you're going to alter this experience so much over the time span of your business that you just want to consider who you want to work with now. What kind of values do they have? What kind of person are they? What do they do for a living? And how can you help them? What's missing out there in the digital world that they really, really, really need help with? And if you don't know, jump into some Facebook groups. Ask on Instagram. Hey, for those of you who own a business, what's your biggest pain point? And just open a conversation. Don't sell anything. Just ask them. And you'd be surprised how many people will just tell you, this is what I'm struggling with. We made a target market workbook, which is wonderful. I think it's like 5 or 6 pages long. Jihei's going to share this at the end of the presentation, a link where you could download it. I really want to encourage you to print it out, fill it all out. It's just for you, and really, really get some deep intel on who that specific person that you're wanting to work with is, so you can talk to them like you know them so well. My second step is to choose 3 to 4 colors and 2 fonts. And don't overthink this, because you will change it a million times in your business lifespan, I promise. Again, I'm a brand and web designer. I'm a developer. We do these extensive brand overhauls for organizations, and it's wonderful. And I believe that it's a huge magnet, and it's wonderful. But there are times when you get so caught up with the brand that you forget to just be the person that shows up for your community. You're so overwhelmed with the logo and the font and the layout of the website that 3 years have passed and you still haven't launched your business because you're so overwhelmed with stuff that you're going to change anyways. That's not even going to matter. I know I'm a designer, and every designer that's watching will relate to this. We change our site more times than I probably change my clothing. I'm telling you, it's never ending. It's a constant process of, I really liked this client. What messaging spoke to them? What did not speak to them? What was confusing? It's a matter of listening to your audience, getting their feedback, altering what's working, what's not. So it's really best to just rip the Band-Aid off and just go for it. So when we're choosing colors in the beginning, if you're having issues choosing colors, I want you to think about your surroundings. So my car, my husband's car, our home. So our cars are black and white. They're identical. It's hysterical. We most of the time will show up in workout clothes, and my pants are black and his pants are black, and my top is white and his top is white. Our phones are both either black or white, very neutral. Our whole home is all neutral. It's black, white, wood, and there's a little bit of green. So if for me to have branding that's like neon pink and neon yellow and all this stuff, it wouldn't make much sense to me because it wouldn't feel organic to me. And therefore, any brand photo shoot I did, anything I had to show up for, I would have to like go buy a whole new wardrobe that I didn't even like because I need to be the brand. But people want to know you. And when you're making a brand around someone that's not you, your audience knows that, and it doesn't feel authentic. So if you have to start off your brand with like black, white, and tan, that's fantastic. You can incorporate things on social media that feel great as you want to, and you can change your colors as you want to. Just know that there's no like hard guidelines around that. So I want you to do that. That's your goal. Like take one day, give yourself a deadline of one day, 3 to 4 colors, 2 fonts, and move on. So I came across this and I thought it was just wonderful. So I had to share with Shutterstock. They have a great tool for choosing your color palette. And I know you can get on Pinterest and just be inundated with, oh my gosh, all the things. You've got a million color palettes, a million typography, layouts, web design. It's a lot. However, if you go to Shutterstock, you can choose from like the primary colors. And if let's say you like green, because I love green, you can click green and it'll give you several different varying color palettes that you can use with green. And you just take what you want. So I love that. I think that that's a super helpful tool. And then Typewolf, I love. I'm such a geek for typography. Okay, I'm such a geek for fonts. So there's a website called Typewolf, and a designer made it years ago. And basically, people will submit their favorite websites. So he has over like 4,000 sites you can look at. And it's all of the websites that they found with the best font pairings, like hands down. And they're right, because they're gorgeous. And he'll tell you what fonts that website is using and where to find them. But he'll also give you free alternatives that look similar, that are like free or just low cost. It's a wonderful spot. So that's like my homework to you, is to find a color palette, pick 2 fonts. One can be a header, and then one can be for like the text, the body font, your paragraph, stuff like that. Your menu links. Don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be complicated. We've changed our fonts and our colors a million times. And I think you're going to, as things evolve, you're going to need to. So if you have to start off with something very basic, then do that. And you can always come back to it. So step 3, how are your clients going to find you? For us, that is mostly Instagram and word of mouth, and then a little bit of Pinterest. It depends on how much work we put into it. But you really want to hone in on exactly where they are, and think about that instead of being all over the place. Because I found, not only just for myself, but our clients and friends that I know, the more you focus on all the things you need to get done and all the strategy, and you don't do anything. You just end up running in circles, mapping out and planning and thinking and just overdoing the behind the scenes. You never actually take the leap and just start. So I want you to really think about, just maybe it's just Instagram, or maybe it's just TikTok. It's wherever you feel good, because you can always automate some of that, and I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. So just start with 1 or 2 platforms. But if you're not using other platforms, make sure that you do secure them with your name and like the same image across the board, so it feels very branded. Because Pinterest is a must when it comes to driving traffic. With SEO, it's phenomenal. TikTok's becoming really huge with SEO. So instead of just keywords, they're really diving into like making sure your SEO is just wonderful when you write the caption. But make sure everything feels branded like you. Everything looks similar. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So that when someone goes to your Pinterest, they know it's you. Then they go to your Instagram, they know it's you. They're not thrown off when they go to one place or the other. But there's ways we can automate this, and I'll go through in just a minute, so that you're not doing all of that work constantly, and your SEO is building because it's automated, and it's just wonderful. So really figure out what your clients are. Step 4, I want you to map out a 30-day social media plan. Don't roll your eyes at me. I don't want it to be complicated. And when I say that, I think people think I mean you need 2 reels a day, you need a post a day, a newsletter, every other day. I don't mean any of that. When I say to map out a 30-day social media plan, that could be like 2 posts a week. That could be 1 post. It's whatever you feel good with. The whole point is that, again, we get so caught up in all the things we need to do that we never do anything. We run in circles, like, for example, my office is not finished, and it probably never will be finished because I run in circles with what I even like. That's from Pinterest. I could go on all day and change my office 100 times because I keep looking at Pinterest and I need to stop. But when you keep focusing on all the things you need to do, you don't do anything because it's overwhelming. So if you are, let's say, starting a business, before you decide to just dive in, if you could just map out a month of just what you're going to talk about. When you start, you already have a game plan. You feel prepared. You're ready to go. You're not like, oh my gosh, I just launched the site. I'm going to pull the covers over my head and I'm too overwhelmed and I disappear and I go ghost. Because that's what happens. And I do that. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. But it's so important to have that game plan so you don't have any opportunity to fall off. You already have it planned. There's nothing else you could do besides just post it. You can't second guess anything. And that also gives you time during that 30 days to be planning for the next 30 days, or to spend that 30 days working on anything else in your business instead of being overwhelmed. So I say, if you are starting off or if you're pivoting or whatever, make sure before you really share that new branding or that new opportunity that you have 30 days of social, even ideas, just mapped out, just ready to go. Schedule them. That way you don't have to think about it. And step 5, of course, y'all knew I was going to say this, just launch the website. It doesn't have to make waves, and it probably won't, because it will always be changing. And you will be your biggest critical fan. Like I'm telling you, you will just be your biggest hater when it comes to your website. I could pick apart every website I've ever done for myself and my business. And I have people who will say, this is so beautiful. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because we're our biggest critic all the time. And it's horrible. And I hate it, but there's no way around it. Even if you have to just make a cover, just a simple cover that says, hey, I'm Kait. This is what I do. I help build websites, for e-commerce businesses and creatives. Here's where you can find me. Here's Instagram and here's my email. Our website's coming soon. That is all you need. That is all you need. Most of our clients, I would say like 95%, to be honest, they come from Instagram. They've met me, like not really, but they've seen me talk. They've gotten to know me. They feel comfortable. They see the stuff that we work on. They see the stuff that I'm sharing and teaching on. They don't even need to see the website ever. So just launch it. It can be simple and you can always come back later and get it finished. It doesn't have to be perfect because I promise you, when you put those boundaries in your way of like, oh, this has to be perfect before I launch, you're just scared. You're just nervous because we've all been there and you're holding yourself back because you say, I have to have this done. You don't have to have it done. And I want you to feel confident enough just knowing that a one pager or something the size of my screen is just so easy to do and just so simple. You're going to be changing it all the time, no matter what. So just let it go. Who you are, a picture of you, and where they can contact you and what you offer. That's all you need at this time. Adjust as needed. Like I said, we've been in this business for 8 years and it is an adjustment always. With every project, I find something that was confusing that I want to change for our clients. Or with every social media post, I find what does and what does not resonate with our customer base. And with every newsletter that goes out, I'm learning more about our data and what works and what doesn't. There's always an adjustment that has to be made. With the world changing, I mean, you think about just a couple of years ago, the messaging was totally different. You could do so much other stuff that would have converted. Now you can't. You have to show up and you have to be personal. And so many things have changed in this digital world. So don't make it perfect now because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Just adjust as you need to. You will be adjusting forever, I promise. Now, after you've done all of that, again, the way that I mentioned with social media, how it's great to have 30 days planned, it's to save you from sabotaging yourself essentially, because I'm one of those. If I don't have everything planned out, I get overwhelmed and I go ghost. That's just me. So I like to automate as much as I can so that there's no way that I can back out or second guess it. So let's consider some steps that we can implement to make it easier for you to show up every day and keep looking uber professional like you want to. So these are some of the things that we automate in our business. And it's just been so wonderful. And again, it's taken us 8 years to get to the point where we feel real good about this. So the first thing we automate, we use Dubsado. Other people use Honeybook. We've literally always used Dubsado. We have our proposals, our invoicing, our contracts, and our questionnaires in automated software. So essentially the way it works is if someone wants to work with us, they go to our website, they fill out the contact form, they get a proposal. When they say this looks fantastic, they immediately get the contract, they can sign it, and they get the invoice, they pay their deposit, and then it sends a questionnaire. And we're always tweaking that automation to make it make the most sense for our whole team and our client base, which is something we're working on right now to continue making it the best it could be. So that's a great way to make sure that you're not being your own bottleneck, because if everyone's having to wait on you to send out all of those things, you're never going to get it done. It's a lot. You want to set up email autoresponders. It's another way to hone in on your personal branding, make sure people know who you are when they get to your site. If you ever want to see one, you can email me at hi@lovekait.com. You'll get an autoresponder and you can copy it. I have people who will copy it and not tell me. And when I respond to them, I see my autoresponder and it just makes me giggle because I love that for them. But it tells people what to expect from me. It tells people how to contact, my project manager if they need to. It tells them, like, for example, that I'm away doing this right now and I'll be back and when to expect me. It's so wonderful. You can schedule your social media posts and newsletters with Later. We use Later and I love it. And what I meant earlier in terms of SEO and automation is that if you say, okay, right now I'm just really comfortable with Instagram, you can just make sure that your Instagram posts are really keyword heavy and you can automate that to be shared to Pinterest and wherever else with Later. And the SEO traffic is like automated and it's pulling to you and it's easier than you going in and having to do all of that stuff manually. We map out our client workflows and touch points in ClickUp. And essentially one thing we're working on now to continue making that process feel branded and seamless and not so crazy. And I want to preface this by saying when I started out, I didn't do all of this stuff. It took me a while to perfect this stuff. So I share these things and I want you to take with a grain of salt and know that that's not something you have to do. I just want to give you some ideas on things that we are doing that really helps us stay branded, keep automated so that we can focus on the things that matter. So we map out our client workflows and touch points in ClickUp. Again, we've been working with Hannah Nieves and her team on perfecting those things. But essentially, someone will inquire, those things go into ClickUp and they tag myself and my project manager. So we're not having to remind ourselves to remember, it's in there for us. Set specific days in your calendar for business work versus client work so that when you launch the simple branding and you're showing up for your audience, you have days that are no, you cannot go around them. Those are your days to say no to client work, no to anything else, and work on something in your business. So if you launched your website very simplistically, you can say, okay, every Monday, I have to sit down and work on my website. It can be your day that's a non-negotiable that's just for your business. And set dates once a quarter for photos and other updated branding elements. It keeps you accountable. Even talk with a photographer. There's a lot of them that do branding photography and they'll do it once a month. And usually you could sign up for like a package. Set it in your calendar. Go ahead and sign up with that photographer. So there's no way around it. So you always have those elements and it's easier for you to show up online. I meet a lot of people who say, I can't show up until I have the perfect photos. And then some people say, I'll just show up with an iPhone photo. And I think either one is perfect. But if you're someone who cannot show up without a beautiful photo, then get that on your calendar so it's done and you don't have to second guess yourself. You essentially want to remove any roadblocks that feel scary to you or that halt you in your process, get them out of the way. And like I said, use Later. It's Later Media or Later app to automate all of your Pinterest posts. They have TikTok now. You can do all of that. It's so easy. It's so easy. And it'll continue working on your behalf for SEO. We do that for our social clients. We do that for ourselves. And it keeps everything in a flow to where we're not having to remember to now, okay, we posted this on Instagram. Let me go over to Pinterest and then it keeps everything automated so you can't second guess or put anything off. So it's time for Q&A. I want to open it up to Jihei for some questions. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Kait. That was lovely. I loved the conversations in the chat as well. You guys are so fun out here. Thanks for still being with us. Okay, so our first question was from This Way to Fabulous Inc. was, as a business owner, what is your pain point, Kait?
That's a really good question. Oh my gosh. So I keep saying, I know I'm an Enneagram 3. I think that's the best way to describe me. I want to be able to do it all and be seen as Superwoman. But then when people see me as Superwoman, I hate it because I'm like, but I have struggles too. I'm a mom, I'm busy, and I want to be able to like duplicate myself and that person work on these things in my business. So my biggest pain point has been over the years feeling comfortable enough in hiring people and trusting them with the clientele that I've built. So right now, I'm finally in a place where we have just such a wonderful team of an assistant designer, assistant developer, and a project manager, and a girl who helps with social media that I really trust. But I am my own biggest pain point because I am my bottleneck. And you could ask the team, Hannah Nieves, that I mentioned in marketing, I will get in my own way because I say, I can handle it. I can do all this on my own. I don't need help, but I do need the help. I'm my worst bottleneck. So that is my biggest pain point, is just getting out of my own way.
I love that. The next two questions are both related to hiring. So I'll read them both and then you can just answer both of them at the same time. So Mac Ryan Creative Studio asked, who was the first person position you hired for? They don't want to duplicate themselves. They want to hire for their blind spot. And then also, when did you know it was time to hire? And how did you go about bringing on your first hire and deciding which ways they can best contribute to the team? So I feel like they're related.
Yes, I love that. So for me, I'm a designer and a developer. And so I can do both of those things. But when we get booked, it's difficult for me to be developing for this one and then designing for this one and then develop. It's a lot. So the first hire we had, her name is Chanel, and she's art assistant designer. She lives in Canada. She's wonderful. She essentially, we met on Instagram, and I was in a space where I couldn't find a good developer at that time. but she was a good designer. And I knew I needed help for one or the other. And so I just opened up that conversation with her because her designs were wonderful. And I just said, never hired anyone. What would that look like for you as a creative? Like, how would that process look for you? And just talking to her, she made me feel more comfortable. She's been with me like 4 years now. She made me feel more comfortable knowing that she could take that off my plate and I could focus on developing the project for that. So we could have this like workflow. So I would say get really clear about the things you struggle with in a project. Like, what's holding you up? What do you not like? What do you hate in a project? And then find someone to do that. We just hired a wonderful project manager because I handle all of our clients up until then. Sometimes we have upwards of like 23 a month. And I can do that. But again, I'm my own bottleneck. And I want our clients to feel so special and taken care of. So I was like, I have to do this because if I don't, I'm going to sabotage myself. So I hired them and it's been wonderful. So I definitely just recommend finding the things you hate, like you really don't like doing in your business, but you know you need to do, and the things that you never have the time for, but you need to get done. And it might be a rinse and repeat thing. You might find somebody and then realize, okay, this actually isn't helping me. What else can we do? And then having that open conversation with them to ask what else they could take on or what they feel comfortable doing.
Love it. There was also this question by TX. It was our friend from Germany. They said, my figure doesn't reflect who I am. I have too much weight. How can I get good photos for my website? Which, first of all, I'm sure you're beautiful. And so please give us some great tips for like what kind of photos work well for a website.
Listen, so first off, hi in Germany, because I'm technically a Volker as a maiden, and I always wanted to go back to Germany and like look at my heritage and stuff. So I love that. So we are our own worst critic. I had a baby a year ago next week. I am my own worst critic. I cannot tell you how many beautiful photos my photographer takes of me lately that I'm like, ugh, I don't like that. I don't like myself. And then I'll share it and someone will say, this is so pretty of you. We are our own bottleneck. We're our own worst critic, and we will criticize ourselves until we're blue in the face. You could ask my husband. I will nitpick everything about myself. Like I hated my eyebrows. I was like, oh, I wish they would grow. And then Jihei's like, your eyebrows are so great. I'm like, thank you. That makes me feel so good. Talk to your photographer and say, hey, I want to find ways that I feel comfortable. And you never know, that photographer might be like, here's some poses that might make you feel really confident. Turn on some music. Get outfits that feel good. It doesn't matter if that's like sweatpants. What feels really good before you do a photo shoot? Go get your hair and makeup done. What makes you feel confident? Have a shot. Like whatever you got to do to feel in your element. You don't have to wear like whatever. Like for me, I'm not going to go out in like a tight dress and like show it all. Like I'm just not comfortable in that way, and it reflects in my photos. So if you're also like that, find a really adorable set, like a sweatsuit set from like Skims or something that feels cute and like edgy and comfortable, and have a photo shoot in that. And keep doing that until you feel confident enough to show up as yourself. Because like Jihei said, I'm sure you're freaking gorgeous. And no one is going to be thinking that, I promise you. I think you're freaking gorgeous. I don't even know you. You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
I love it. Okay, we have 3 questions and we don't have a lot of time. So give us like a 2-minute answer for this one. My struggle is finding new and different content to post rather than the same trending reels posts everyone in my industry is already doing. What is something you can encourage them in?
Okay, so what I really love to do is I like Odessa Radio whenever I'm working out. It's, if you've never listened to it, look it up. It's, I don't know how like upbeat, it's like exciting, but there's always something in there that feels inspiring to me, and it reminds me of something I could talk about and how I can make it into a reel. So I'll go on a long walk and I'll listen to that music and I'm like, oh, I could turn this into a reel and it's unique. So yeah, trending reel is great, but get out in the like scenery, go look around and listen to some music. Like literally listen to whatever music you can find, and you will find so much inspiration in that music. It's wild.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, quick question from Hillary. How do you combine motherhood with entrepreneurship? I'm sure you could do a whole webinar on that, but give us 2 minutes on that.
By juggling. I'm like, I was able to thankfully hire a nanny that helps me 3 days a week for just a few hours. And that has been life-changing since my husband's gone like 6 days a week and we don't have family here. It is a never-ending process. You have to do what works for you, and you have to set very strict boundaries, like very strict boundaries with clients, and show up in the way that feels effective for you, not in the way that everyone else is doing.
So good. I love that.
Be open and honest. There's so many moms out there on social media. Like, don't be afraid to show up and just share motherhood with anybody. People relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then Rachel says, do you automate all the posts to Pinterest, Twitter, etc., through one platform, which you said you use later?
Yeah, we use later. Hey, Rachel, she's the sweetest. She's always just so, she's in my inbox and I just love her. So yes, we automate literally as much as we can. And then I'm a sporadic person where if something inspires me, I want to post right then. So that might not get automated, but for the most part, yes, everything goes through later. And they have a whole platform where you can put your stories, you can put your feed post, you can put Pinterest, and then you can do like TikTok. It's phenomenal, and it's definitely worth looking at. And Twitter.
I love it.
Definitely.
All right, friends, we are wrapping this up. We also had someone who said if you're taking new clients, they want your contact info, which is so great. And we shared it. Okay, so great. So how can people find you, Kait?
They can find me at lovekait.com. It's Kait, lovekait.com, or at Kaitlin Fontenot, which is my name, which is in I think the webinar title.
Yes.
Or Kait Studio. It's the best way to find me.
Okay, I love it. And friends, I loved our time together today. I think hopefully you're feeling less alone and supported in whatever piece of the journey that you're in. And anytime that you're feeling lonely, I mean, reach out to people. And like Kait was saying, like, I don't know, we could do this again if you guys want. Let's just hang out. That's super fun. But reach out to people. Don't feel alone in your journey. There's a lot of people out there who are just like you. And I mean, we are even having a conference here in November. It's called Spark, and we would love to invite you because we are here for the creatives, and we love just creating a safe place where people can learn and grow, but also really connect with other creative people. So, Kait, thank you so much for your time. You just shared so many great things. I think people felt really encouraged and empowered to really like do the thing, whether it's post or work on their websites, which we want to help you with your website too. But yeah, get out there and do the thing, guys. And we believe in you. So go out and do it.
Do it.